the poke to come out from the Varus, from Suning, a lot to play for. But I would say, to sum it up a bit, I'm giving a little bit of an edge here to the side of Suning. I think their champions just pair a bit better into what TT have.
We'll see. I always think when we look at compositions like this, if you take off the nameplates, it's a lot harder to say which one is the better team. I feel like when you're looking at compositions, often your underlying biases come through. But at the same time, Suning have both Season 11 champions. So that alone, like, I see Gwen in a draft, I'm like, that's a pretty good draft. I see Viego in a draft, I'm like, that's a pretty good draft. I see them both on the same team, I'm like, okay, this one's done and dusted, boys. Suning managing to get both of those picks. But in all seriousness, let's talk game plan for the two compositions then, because for Suning, it feels like they have push in the bottom lane with the Varus, right? They have Gwen, who has pretty much exclusively good matchups in the top side, aside from some of these ranged matchups. But with a Victor in the mid lane, I'm not entirely sure who gets push against the Orianna. Is this a composition where Suning can play towards things like the Drakes?
So it's going to be interesting. I don't think any team would necessarily have to put too much into an early Drake if they want to. I think Rift Heralds and just growing an exponential gold lead has become more important on this patch, really, because we've seen it a lot. The Baron is going to be the deciding factor. The Soul, usually, depending on what you roll, is not going to be that depending factor. But Orianna into Victor is a very highly debated matchup in who gets priority here, who gets to push into lanes. There's a lot of people who feel like there should never be a solo kill in this matchup, because realistically speaking, a lot of the abilities should be used to get the priority instead, and then moving out on the rest of the map. I think from Suning's side, you want to play up towards this Gwen. You want to be able to abuse the fact that she actually has a good matchup here. You can play towards the top side and get a lot of priority. You can move in with the Rift Herald. Then you can use that later towards the bottom lane if you feel like it. But I think just from how they work with each other, to sum it up here, Victor could be getting the priority against Orianna. Towards the bottom lane of the map, you have the Varus with the Halo Blade, you have the Leona. There's a lot of setup here as well that should be quite easy to play for. What TT wants to do with this setup though instead is you want to use your abilities to disengage with this. You want to keep the Flay against the Zenith Blade. You want to keep the Dark Passage to keep Sam D safe. So a lot of this time you're playing on the back foot, and when you're playing on the back foot in the early game, that's going to give Suning some time to move around with the map, to play for the jungler, to move around with the priority, and try to set up some good vision to track Xiaopeng on this Lee Sin.
Okay, so it's down to Suning in the early game to make proactive plays, and already you can see On and Huanfeng, well aware of that fact, is they're trying to cheese in the brush, maybe hoping that someone will come and face check, but they decide to come out. They've got to contest the wave, they've got to try and fight for level 2, so we don't get the shenanigans just yet, but I like the attempt, I like the idea, I like the fact that they're looking for something to happen there. But importantly, both junglers starting leashless as On goes in on Sam D. Again, trying to fight for priority in this bottom lane, but they're not winning that fight.
Yeah, they're definitely not, but there you can see it once again. The Thresh Flay just being utilized to stop the Zenith Blade, and that's what you're doing. As a Thresh in this matchup, you want to stand on top of your aphelios the whole time. You want to be that safety net, and actually sometimes you want to play a bit behind the aphelios as well, just so you can have that Dark Passage for a getaway as an escape. And usually a Thresh aphelios would be getting priority. The thing is, you're playing into Varus. Varus with Halo Blades does effective trading in the level 1, where he's just able to get those 3 stacks of his passive, put down the E, and all of a sudden you can't walk up and contest the wave. You've just lost the trade. Now, another thing on the map that is quite curious here is the fact that junglers are not mimicking each other. They're pathing towards different areas here. So bot lane from Suning could be a point of attack from the side of TT due to the nature that they are pushing in. And on the top side of the map, they should have priority for a Scuttle Suning.
Yeah, good little dodge there from onto the death sentence that came on through. As you're mentioning, Xiaopeng on the bottom side of the map right now, he's just finishing his red buff and could lean towards this bottom lane. But with the Scuttle spawning, you'd think maybe he goes straight there. But Xiaopeng is known for his early aggression. He's known for his Lee Sin ganks. He wants to try and make his way down to the bottom lane, but Suning sniff it out. Angry Kitty comes out from On. Xiaopeng will walk away empty-handed as SofM gets that top crab. Angel can force priority here alongside his jungler in the mid lane. And guess what? Suning have priority in the bot side as well. This could be a double crab for SofM. Or
it should
not
be
if he gets caught out in the river. What is happening? Xiaopeng follows him over the wall. Angel drop in a stun there. Xiaopeng's going to be caught. On gets the stun in, and it's Xiaopeng that's baited in. SofM wins it out.
Oh, On didn't want to risk it, so he dropped the Ignite, taking over the kill. That double buff would have been absolutely huge on the Victor as well, just to keep that instantaneous pyro going. But it ends up being a first blood nonetheless, and an advantage over to the side of Suning. At the same time, remember, Lee Sin have not full cleared his jungle. His Raptors not taken, his Crux not taken. Walk down towards the bot, walks up towards the mid lane, gets killed, and now he got double scuttled. He's behind in tempo to the side of SofM. It's not a good start from Xiaopeng on this Lee Sin because of all these resources he's just lost.
Let's take another look, because it looked really dicey. I thought SofM was doomed. I thought he was cut out, but turns out he was baiting.
Yeah, it seemed like they were not on the same page here either. Xiaopeng is the only one dashing forward, while yeah, he's just walking backwards as soon as the flash has come out from the Viego. So it seemed like the two of them wasn't really on the same page because of this.
Yeah, not quite able to make it work, at least in this first play, and it has to be said, On's going to stop the recall. No, he's not. He's just going to allow it, as Huanfeng will clear the wave. Already 2 long swords for Huanfeng, by the way, but I have to mention that this is a rough spot for Xiaopeng to be in, because now as Lee Sin, you're going to farm pretty slow, generally speaking, although I don't know exactly about the clear speed of Viego. It feels like Xiaopeng is going to have to get creative on this Lee Sin and try and find opportunities in these lanes to be able to get back on pace with SofM.
Yeah, but that's always what you have to do. The nature of the matchup is that with Lee Sin, for the most part, your jungle clear is not going to be up to par with the rest there is in meta right now. So a lot of the times you will have to influence the lane. But Munch, here's my question to you, and I may just be answering for you, right? But you can't really play into the Gwen. She's got a lot of priority. The vision control is always set up. Now with the Victor as well, you take a look at the river vision. Top side river vision. Bot side river towards the mid lane. There's a pink ward as well. And down towards the bottom lane, Huanfeng and On, they have just had priority in this bottom lane the entire time. So matters are only going to get worse as well for Xiaopeng if he does not find a little window to find an edge in this game, because if this just goes on, if you just continue with clearing the junglers, what can you do, right?
SofM has been spotted by Xiaopeng there, but I'm not sure. I don't know if Xiaopeng could even go for a 1v1 at this point as Sam D takes a cue to the face from Huanfeng, but a death sentence to try and punish On at least a little bit. Trading evenly back and forth. We talked about this bot lane 2v2. Feels like it's going well, just on a matchup-based point for the side of Suning. But yeah, I mean, when you talked about the compositions earlier on, when we saw it was locked in, I have to say that was my first thought, and I didn't want to say it straight away because I didn't want to feel like, there's nothing to watch here, you know. But when you look across the lanes, we have a neutral mid lane, we have a losing top lane, we have a losing bot lane for the side of TT. Then you got a Lee Sin that wants to play through the lanes. It's like, but which lane? But maybe Tahm Kench can make gank opportunities happen. Maybe there's some kind of window. Certainly,
you could also turn it around here.
Right now.
You could turn it around and say, maybe Suning, they go to Worlds, right? And maybe this is just what it's going to look like playing against an NA team. So if we pretend TT is just going to be, you know, a little taste before the international, then we'll try and go for that one, yeah?
Man, don't say such horrible things about TT, man. Don't roast TT like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, right. I did do them quite dirty on that one. I'm sorry.
I can't believe you'd say that. I can't believe it. You're feeling spicy today with your tweet about LEC, now flavouring the LCS as well. We got an all-in on the top side though. Xiao7's feeling pretty spicy himself. Ignite onto Bin. The needle work will come on through. Waiting for that Ignite to finish to try and get max sustain out of the Conqueror. Xiao7 putting some serious pressure onto Bin.
He definitely is, but once again, the kill pressure is just not there. But with a flash being down, you could try and look up towards Xiaopeng as this being a point of attack, right? Because no ultimate, so that sustain from the Gwen that we know her from is not going to come through as much as it could without it. So with Xiaopeng now being on this red buff and his blue side camp being up, I would expect them to try and punish it. I would expect them trying to go for a Hail Mary play, because we already said it. Priority is just not there for them. And with Bin just being back, having purchased this Leech and Leer, it's just going to be even more tough from the side of Xiao7 to actually get up here and try to have that impact he wants to have.
Yeah, Xiao7, it feels like that Ignite window was the opportunity to try and find Bin, and it didn't happen. And now as you say, the more items Gwen gets, the more difficult the matchup is going to become. SofM's been found in the jungle. Xiaopeng with a great little kick. Heartbreaker onto the blast cone. SofM. That was just beautiful.
Oh, and he even forced the flash out as well, so it's an exchange of summoner spells at the same time. SofM used his ultimate, the same goes for Xiaopeng. So yeah, the priority from Xiaopeng after that exchange is going to be there with SofM being pushed away, but he's quite healthy again, and with Victor now coming in from the mid lane and Bin also deciding to join the fight, they might try to scrap around this Rift Herald.
Would not surprise me at all. Neither bot lane is here. Bin, no needlework available, which is a huge part of the kit here. Here we go, knock up from Xiao7. Shockwave onto SofM as they start the fight off. SofM goes down, Herald was taken as well, and TT have found themselves an advantage in this game.
Excellent stuff from the side of TT here, actually. We said they needed to be creative in how they find their leads here, and Xiaopeng started out with actually finding a little good skirmish on towards SofM with that netted priority, with that extra tempo. They had to go for the Herald as well, where they had to burst it down. The setup as well from Xiao7 with that Abyssal Warage, just perfect into the Shockwave as well, forcing the flash away from Angel, and it also creates a new point of attack now. Now with Angel no longer having any flash, you can try and set up any some dive potential down here with Xiaopeng now with the Lee Sin, as soon as that ultimate is back up once again. And we can kind of take a look at it with the replay here. Yeah, comes in from a position where they're all just grouped up here, and as I said, Angel forced to flash away with SofM going down and Rift Herald being picked over to the side of TT. So they actually have the chance now to be the one setting up a play. They have the chance now to be proactive themselves.
Great to see, yeah, being ready on that snap decision to go for the flash forward to get the Shockwave onto multiple people. And obviously, Angel flashes out of it. But really, really nice to see, yeah, stepping up in those moments. Because I'm not going to lie, leading into that play, I was a lot more nervous for TT than I was for Suning. And it feels good to see them managing to pull that play off. And now the question has to be, what happens with this Herald? We've got Xiaopeng, Herald in pocket. Where do you expect him to try and leverage that pressure?
So the thing is, you'd always love to have it in a side lane, but the problem is right now from TT, they just don't have any side lane pressure themselves. The best bet for them would be trying to set up some Herald usage in the mid lane, just to make it a bit low, just to get that Turge to half HP. So when as soon as the second Herald comes into play, and you want to be able to create map movements with this as well, you can drop it in the mid lane if you're able to pick it up, and then just take it as a long-term plan instead. So I feel like the first usage here, they're not going to be able to get any towers. They're not going to be able to get too many plates, just because the map state is still not favoring them. It's still tough for them to find any leverage in any lane, and right now SofM is doing a good job at mirroring Xiaopeng. You can see the intel, the wards has already been there to spot them. They know he's down towards the bottom side.
Spotted. He got spotted in that brush. We saw him for just a split second there on the Suning vision, and it means Xiaopeng will not find his window. Pudding tries to move in, but it's just full vision control for Suning in the river. And with an Infernal Drake spawning in 30 seconds, Xiaopeng is on a ward. And Suning are like, you know what? Let's just take this fight. Chain of Corruption in. The Heartbreaker. Xiaopeng is no more. Suning find themselves a very intelligent pick, and it's right before Drake as SofM. He's feeling himself a little bit of Lee Sin gameplay too.
And it's just good jungle tracking as well, because if you take a look at the minimap, there is a pink ward that was in the tri-bush as well, but they've been very intelligent of the side of Suning, and they had actually put it outside of the pink ward pressure. You can actually see they're right next to the Drake. So they knew the entire time before he walked into the bush that would ward it, that Xiaopeng was towards the bottom side of the map. And that is why SofM decided to stay here, and just immediately one-shot them as soon as he stepped too far forward.
Yeah, minor unfortunate situation for Suning where Huanfeng couldn't quite walk close enough to the tower, and the final caster minion auto removed the first plate from the tower, and Huanfeng was out of range. So a little bit sad that 160 gold down the drain there for Suning. Certainly not the end of the world. As they grab themselves a second Drake, it will be that Cloud Soul, which I feel like this conversation has been had globally. It feels like Cloud Soul is happening all the time right now. Whenever teams are stacking up Drakes, it feels like it's a Cloud Soul. But that Herald does go to the mid lane as you predicted. Yeah, manages to dodge away from the Solar Flare, gets the Lantern out, the Thresh Express. They're Suning now grouping up to try and punish. It doesn't feel like there's much will happen here. There's no objective to fight over, but I think SofM maybe just wants to try and get these chickens instead. Will smite away the big chicken. and wants a little bit of popcorn chicken for himself as well. Clears a couple of those away. And now Suning can move towards this bottom side. Could see Sam D in trouble. Pudding could be in trouble. Yeah, has to flash away back into the mid lane once again. As Suning will not concede control of TT's jungle right here. They want a red buff. They want everything. They can find 2-man Shockwave, though, to answer the play. A death sentence onto On, who's not that tanky just yet in the game. 200 HP as he walks away, but he will walk away with his life. Red buff still available, and it looks like TT have held on to control.
But this is actually what differentiates LPL from a lot of leagues right now. They'll be trying to use the downtown from the waves or not in the lanes as much as they can. Every time there's a jungle camp that you can get control over, they'll try to go for it. Every time that you can start creating a skirmish when you have a gold lead, they'll try and go for it. And they didn't lose all too much. They go back to the lanes as soon as they're reset. They're clearing up again. And they got some summoners spells as well from the side of Ye here. So now that's a point of attack that you can use when you have a Leona yourself as well. And it's something that a lot of other teams across different regions has started to pick up as well. But it's this early aggression. It's this willingness to create fights when you have a gold lead that is putting LPL in such a good position, especially in this meta. So once again, nicely done from Suning. They didn't win out with an immediate gold lead, but they took away a Raptor, they took away Ye's flash, and it makes the game harder once again to play from the side of TT.
Yeah, just forcing pressure. It's like creating objectives, right? Because if you do find a pick there, if you do manage to kill, let's say you kill Orianna, right? Then maybe there's a window to go for a mid lane tower. If you manage to kill the bot lane, maybe there's a window to go into the bot lane instead. You're finding ways to force pressure onto these towers, and it's great to see Suning building this proactivity, because that was one of the things that has been criticized about Suning for basically the last 2 years. Even when Sword was on the team, this was one of the criticisms of Suning, was being too neutral, being too passive in the early game. And it feels like this split has very much been the story of Suning improving that early game proactivity. And the Herald might be their next port of call for that.
Yeah, I will say that's the thing TT has been doing extremely well this series already. The Herald setups they have here, the movements they go for it, they're always first in the play. But remember, they are 2k down, so as Suning, they would like to fight this objective. Remember, no flash in the air.
Hook onto Bin here, does use his W to keep himself safe as On goes in. 2k on the Herald. TT would love to just finish that one off. 3-man Shockwave comes out from Ye. But not much follow-up. Xiao7 into the fray, but there's just no damage. Xiao7 falls. Herald was taken by TT. It's at the cost of one player as SofM continues forward on his fake Tahm Kench. He's unbenched himself as they move into the mid lane.
All things considered, that might not be all too bad. Remember, they already used the Herald in the mid lane one time, so the mid lane turret is close to half HP, where second Herald should be able to deal with it. But on the top side of the map, it looks like they want to go for Angel, who's a bit overstepped here. Hey. Kick is still up for Xiaopeng.
Chaos Storm is available, though. Angel's 3 levels above Xiaopeng. I don't know if Lee Sin wins this one. Great flash from Angel. A TP from his team now. And yet, Xiaopeng forced away. Nicely played by the Suning mid laner.
There we go. TPs came through as well here, just to kind of back him off if he decided to overstep that one. But it's also a decent lane assignment, but can be quite huge as well because of the fact that we have that third Drake, the soul point from the side of Suning, spawning up at just a few moments. So what Bin is probably going to be doing is that he's going to be pushing in the top side and he's going to be making his way down towards that Drake to be there for the setup. But once again, objective setup, something Suning hasn't been all that good at doing this series. Remember, they have pure prior lanes. This is something we should expect them to be first on the objective on, but TT, very good at actually setting this up. And despite landing a brilliant shockwave, they just don't have the gold lead to actually facilitate a fight like that. So they get out with the Herald, they sacrifice their top laner, and this is all they get.
Now, I know this may be a big surprise to everyone watching, but it turns out Orianna and aphelios, not the greatest carry combo on just one item. I know, revelations here in the LPL, something you've never heard before, I'm sure. It's going to be third Drake here for Suning, and TT going to answer in the mid lane, slamming that Herald down to try and at least find themselves a gold lead. But here we go, Smite fight, and it is taken by Suning. Xiaopeng back to his team, but a great solar flare goes in. Bin on the front line, arrows from Huanfeng into the meat grind to go TT, but they've answered back with some damage. The needlework comes through, and once again, Suning finish a fight with just a singular kill, but again, find the advantage.
I wish TT would have just gone for the immediate play of the mid lane there as well. You can see the Herald actually opening up the mid lane turret here. I feel like they didn't learn from their lesson here they just had with the Herald, with the fact that, oh guys, we don't actually win out on a team fight. Maybe we should be trying to get a gold lead elsewhere. So they open up the first turret of the game actually with this Herald usage. And that could have been a decent time to actually try and climb back into the game, to try and open up the map a bit more and try to create more pick potential with vision pockets rather, with a Thresh, with a Lee Sin, with the Dragon Rage, and with Orianna with the Shockwave. Instead, what they decide to do is they decide to try and fight for the Drake. They try to get the steal, and it's just not enough. It's a bit disjointed. Either you make the call that Lee Sin try to steal the Drake, get out with a Lantern, or you make the call to completely team fight it and go in. Obviously, the first one would have been the better option, and he decides to just go down himself, unfortunately.
Bin moves in to clear the wave on the top side is, yes, slowed by the solar flare, but it will not get the stun, and it means Suning can't quite punish this play. I want to mention the gold lead. Almost 3,000 at this point. We're just broaching the 20-minute mark because Xiaopeng has found Angel in the bottom side. He's taken a lot of damage from the Chaos Storm. Can he finish off the Suning mid laner? This would be a shutdown if he can find it. Dodges the knockup. Angel playing inside the minion wave, so the Qs can't land. Xiaopeng made an attempt, but Angel just takes him out.
You know, considering how far behind in gold he actually was, that's a respectable attempt, but it's also just a clear indication that it is desperate times from the side of TT. They know that this game is rolling away from them. They're already on soul point. With 20 minutes into the game now, Baron has spawned up, and the more of the map that Suning can claim for themselves, the more priority they can have towards this top side of the map. You can see all the pink wards that's already been put up. The harder it's going to be for TT to actually try to crawl back into this game, because as soon as this Baron goes down, that's where you probably don't have too much to fight for any longer. Cloud Soul, luckily from the side of TT, not the best soul to have to close out games with a poke composition, with Angel on the Victor and with Huanfeng on the Varus. So, I mean, you could just realistically give that one away and not be too sad about it.
All right, we take a look at the pro view. We get to see the insane mechanics of the Tahm Kench Victor 1v1. I will say, there was some nice dodging from Angel across this.
It definitely was, and you know, I like the attempt once again, but as soon as he gets in towards that minion wave, it just becomes so tough. Dodging out the W is quite easy. There actually is a little bit of a finicky thing where your champions just start auto-attacking as soon as Tahm Kench goes into his W, which you saw Angel there almost gets caught up because of that as well. But he gets out of it eventually, and yeah, it's just it's a quite easy kill as soon as you have to play around the minion wave.
And he even got the cannon. He even got the cannon in amongst all of that. The Chaos Storm just like CSing the entire wave, and his laser gets the cannon on top of it. Angel, multitasking genius in the mid lane as he's now 2-0-2. Let's be honest, we're kind of overhyping it. You should probably be able to beat the Tahm Kench to 1v1. Because Tahm Kench doesn't exactly offer that much damage, and especially when you're in a minion wave, he can't hit his tongue lash. So what can he do in that situation? But Suning now, 4,000 gold up. It feels like they are pushing to close things out. And guess what? When we talked about game number 2 in the A block against RA, what was the thing that clinched the game? It was the Baron, and it seems to be exactly what Suning leans towards to finish these games out.
It's just been, you know, the recipe for success for Suning lately. The fact that you have one lane that you can be creating plays with, then as soon as you have this to play for, then you take that priority into the jungle instead, because there is a downtown where you're not losing any minions, and the enemy either have to make a response where they fight in that jungle and lose something themselves, or they just have to give it everything up, and just it's just a like lose-lose situation that kind of gets set up for you now, and with 30 seconds on towards the Cloud Soul, it just becomes even harder. The Elder Drake will spawn as well. I think for TT here, you just give this up. You try to see if you can leverage some of the vision on the top side of the map instead, so it becomes a bit easier for you to actually contest any vision that would be around the Baron buff, because right now, you can't give over the entire map to Suning. I think fighting for this Drake can be quite tough. If you were to do it though, I think, yeah, it's the pivotal point. He's got 2 items on the Orianna now. And
no, that's a huge solar flare. I mean, Guldborg, you said it yourself. They can't fight for this one. They don't even get to fight for it. In goes Xiaopeng, but he can't do anything. And TT back away with their heads held low. This will be the Drake surely for Suning.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do?
It's a tragedy.
What do you do as TT, right? It's kind of a tough one. You're put in a position against Suning where it's just hard for you to find a point of attack, although...
Maybe this is what you do. Flash from Huanfeng will be caught, will be taken down. It's a good kill going the way of Sam D. And hey, they will still lose the Drake. SofM should be able to finish this one off before the contest is there from Xiaopeng. Will get it. That's a Cloud Soul. But at least there's a pick and a shutdown there for the side of TT. And guess who got the shutdown? It was Sam D. Already 2 items on that aphelios. If you can get to the 3-item mark, maybe there's a glimmer of hope.
Ah, man, how useless is Cloud Drake a lot as well? It's kind of like, oh, the enemy team just sees Cloud Drake. We don't actually have to fight for it. Had this been Infernal Zone, the lasers was going to do so. No, I don't care. I don't care about this extra movement speed you get. The resistance you get from Mountain Soul in the shield just pays so much more value, immediate value as well. The Infernal Soul with the extra damage and the burst to actually come through from them when you hit an ability, especially with Varus being in the meta, so tough to deal with. It almost becomes unwinnable. But when the enemy teams gets Cloud Drake, it's kind of just fine. Like, it doesn't really matter all too much.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with that. Here we go, knock up onto Bin, but no damage onto Bin. It doesn't matter, Xiao7. There's nothing you can do. That's a Gwen. Welcome to Season 11, my friend. You've got to rework Tahm Kench, but he's still an old champion. And Tahm Kench has gone back to the bench on this one. 5 seconds until Elder as Suning start to put the accelerator on now. They're starting to take these towers across the map. You can see Angel pushing in the top side as Huanfeng tries to finish the tier 1 mid. Bin pushing the tier 2 in the bottom side. Feels like there is pressure on all fronts from Suning.
It certainly does feel so. And I mean, you can even see they've tried to make matters worse for the Thresh and from the side of this Tahm Kench as well, because the first item from Huanfeng as well was that Serpent Fang to come through as well. He doesn't even have a mythic. He's not bothered to go for it. He's just going for the Serpent Fang into the Romana, and he's going to be getting this Arilda's Crutch as well. So they're just trying to make sure that no shielding whatsoever is going to be able to save them in an extended team fight. And now, with all the side lanes having already been taken, all Suning has to do now is just push out top or push out bot, wait for a response from the side of TT in one of those side lanes, and then create a man advantage in the mid lane. But here we see the replay once again. I could be breaking this down for you if I wanted to, but it's just a snip into the dip, into the kill in the end, and I mean, there's not much to it. It's just Gwen. We've seen this loads of time already.
It's a really good example of why you should never mess with your mother's sewing box. That stuff is dangerous, especially when there's the King of the Undead alongside it. As Xiao7 is going to discover for himself, taken out yet again, and SofM gets to be Tahm Kench for a little bit. Now Xiaopeng found out in the jungle. I think Sam D managed to get the chicken in the end, but honestly, I'm not even sure who got it. But guess what? Sam D, you got to get out of there, buddy, because they are going to be more than happy to dive this tower. Pudding takes a third of his health from a laser from Angel there. As now Suning start to bash away onto these tier 2. Xiaopeng in the side gets a kick onto Huanfeng, and that's 1 for 1 so far, but the rest of the damage is plenty from Angel. A Heartbreaker to finish off another. Xiaopeng back into the fray, but he realizes he's got nothing in the tank. On goes down though, actually. Xiaopeng being chased by Angel. Ward hop onto a blast cone, as in the meantime SofM has finished off Sam D. Xiaopeng's got to the bottom lane, but Bin is still just pushing there. He's already taken an in-him tower, and Angel just finishes off the jungler. Bin doesn't even look at him. He doesn't even give him the respect to fight the guy.
Bin couldn't even be bothered with that one. He just saw the Lisa and was like, I don't really care. You can have that one. I'll keep pushing this one. He just wants to get out. Like, 27 minutes into the game, Baron has not even been taken yet. They've gotten 2 inhibitors, and with all this map pressure, I think we're looking at the last moments of this game at least, where they should be able to set up the Baron, and they should be able to try and go for some of the final pushes.
Do you know what? I don't even think that was Bin not being asked to go for the kill. I think that was Angel in the comms going, don't you dare. Don't you touch that. That is my kill. Don't you touch him, Bin. This is my MVP, because he's 5-0-4 right now. Angel making Victor look like an early game champion, as Baron will be taken. And Guldborg, that's got to be the final nail in the coffin, right? Maybe not. On moves in. Are TT willing to actually fight with an engage onto Leona? I hope not, because I don't think that's the window.
But what are you going to do anyway? It's kind of just like you're put in a situation where you just have to find some sort of redemption play. And even there, super good kick in the fight earlier from Xiaopeng to get on towards Huanfeng. It was just not enough. Like, now you have to get Angel as well, who's 5-0. How do you manage that? He still has Flash.
Oh, my lord.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
Pudding, you're dead. Angel just solo killed him. The whole team is there, and Angel doesn't even need them. He just basically one-shots Pudding, who's just not having a fun time anymore. This will be the third inhib gone. And this, honestly, this might just be game. I think Suning can just keep pushing on forward. They're going to have supers in multiple lanes, starting to stream into the base. Third inhib down. TT, you can see them clustered up in the base, and that's perfect for a solar flare. Sam D's in trouble. Kick onto SofM, but it doesn't matter. This Xiaopeng will fall as well. Sam D, Infernum, is not going to do much of anything as the Nexus will fall and Suning make things look easy.
And while this was a stump, remember, these kind of victories are extremely important for Suning. We talked a bit about it in the start of the day with how this, with how the seeding works as well. If they could get put up on towards that 7th place and play the 10th place team in towards the playoffs, that would definitely be an ideal situation. But once again, for TT, everything kind of just went wrong from the draft phase as well. You didn't have any priority lanes. You couldn't play for topside. You couldn't play for bot. And Victor and Orianna is just a stale matchup in the mid lane where you're trying to contest who can get the push. But essentially, there's still both two control mages that just got that wave clear in the early game. So as soon as that first kill came through, as soon as they started to play for the junglers as well, as soon as they started to get those first objectives, it was just kind of nothing for TT to do. I will say, if I have to compliment TT on one thing, it's the herald setup. The herald set up this game way better than Suning. Suning actually fell behind on that part. Unfortunately, League of Legends is not about who can get the first 2 heralds. It's about who can play the map, who can push into lanes, who can kill the Nexus. And unfortunately, TT just didn't know how to do that this game.
Yeah, definitely feels like the TT game plan was to try and snowball through heralds, right? But again, we talked about it during the game. Where do you put the herald if you have 3 losing lanes? It's impossible to make any significant impact with that objective. And I especially am curious about this Tahm Kench pick, because you mentioned it before, once Gwen gets some items, it becomes basically impossible to win the 1v1. But Gwen was already locked in. We knew this was going to be a Gwen, so then you have to question the Tahm Kench pick on why are you opting into this matchup when you know you won't have that side lane pressure. Felt like an interesting decision to make with Jace still available on the board for Xiaopeng. I feel like perhaps going back to the draft for TT, things could change to make game number 2 a little bit more advantageous.
Yeah, but it's also just the fact that you take a look at the composition that we have on Suning. It's not only what TT picked for themselves, it's also what they let Suning have. You gave them a first rotation that was Viego and Varus, some of the 2 strongest champions on this patch. Combine that with a 3rd pick of the Gwen, and then you get Leona, which you said as well in Champ Select, one of the most popular supports we have in the league. I didn't check on it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was the most played champion, or at least support that we had throughout this entire year of the LPL. So